Howdy folks, I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist. I am barely scraping myself together today, but it's important because I really want to do a neutrino forecast for the next week or so. And we are talking about a time period that is going from, what is it, the 28th of November? It's kind of starting on the 27th though. So that's why I'm trying to get this report out as soon as possible, because I know people are busy, especially on their personal turkey/genocide days. Anyway, so Thursday through the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd of December. And so we're going to look at some of these papers and details, and then we can talk. Alrighty, I'm going to switch the camera so we can look at things. Alright, so let's find the right page to begin on here. There. And there. And definitions here for 9. $16, and we can also look at that and the other crosses. There. Okay, now we'll get my phone locked in here, and good, we can get to the talking. Now, normally when I get to this phase, I have some kind of an idea of what I am going to say, and today I do not. So, we're sort of flying by the seat of our pants, not because I haven't been thinking about it, not because I haven't been preparing for it, but because I'm deeply wrapped in a process of growth and transformation that has almost my full brain really utilized in every moment of this time. I think what I realized is it was actually that transit of the 3420. So just to reiterate, what I am doing here is first looking backwards. So we're looking at the time of the 3420, and let me shift this here. I actually do want to go into that a little bit because I believe I didn't actually spend any time on this last time, looking at the crosses themselves and talking about the meanings of these things. So just briefly to review what the cycle that we're completing, and then we can look into the future, and I can tell my stories at the same time, maybe. So we're starting off here with 3420 as our definitions in the conscious sun and earth. And what's happening here is we're in the cross, or we've left it, but as we were starting the cross of the sleeping phoenix in the 4th quarter. So the last version, the version that is truly about leading us into transformation, is that it's making manifesting generators of the entire planet for this time. So we have raw sacral energy coming out of the 34 and shooting directly to the throat through the 20. So for people who are used to carrying that energy, maybe not such a big deal. But for those of us who don't actually always have that connection, that is a powerful lot of energy. And to sustain it for 6 days is kind of draining, potentially. And I'll tell you, I've definitely felt not necessarily drained myself, but kind kind of drained, but definitely like I'm always on point. Like my brain is just like, rawr, let's get this done. Let's go, let's make it happen. Let's make this work. So it's very interesting. In this cross of the sleeping Phoenix, busyness is a theme for the whole entire thing. They're talking also about when you add the 55 and the 59 as the supporting energies, which is what's here in the sleeping Phoenix, it means that you get a sexual strategy as part of your cross definition. So the 59 and the 55 would be over here on the unconscious side for the sun and the earth. And that means that it was kind of interesting how Ra talked about it, that busyness is their sexual strategy. He talks about the example of a beautiful woman walking by a construction site, and the man who has this definition is not going to whistle or try to get her attention, except that he's going to go and pick up the nearest very, very heavy thing and carry it industriously in her vicinity so that she sees, I'm ignoring you, I'm just being so busy. But he makes a valid point that busyness is often sexiness, and that's why our mothers don't want us to marry a bum, is what Roz says about it. It's kind of cute. He has a point. The juxtaposition cross in this case is 3420, and then that underlying energy of the 59 and 55 over here has switched to 40 and 37. So you have the channel of community, the bacon bringer, the one who wants to work to bring resources into the community, and the one who is friendly and loyal and taking care of making sure that all the mouths get fed there. So this is the energy for communities, marriages, the deal, the bargain, the cross of planning that we are leaving. So what we have here when we have energy moving into the cross of power is an extremely powerful juxtaposition, especially at this time when we are specifically and in a larger global sense on the knife's edge between the old energy of this planning and the new energy of the sleeping Phoenix and that charismatic 3420. So he says, this is power as business. Do you need my power? How much do you want to pay for it? So a lot of times he says this will be happening in entertainment. They provide opportunities in which the mutative individual can impact on the tribe. So there's only 2 examples of it, and I don't really know anything about either one. And I think I remember checking this, and neither one of them was sure to actually be the juxtaposition. It was just that when we don't know the time of the day, we guess noon, and if noon happens to land on the juxtaposition, then the people who are listed at that time will be listed as possible juxtaposition crosses, even if they aren't necessarily. They might be. Who knows? All right, then we move quickly on because, of course, that juxtaposition time period is only about 4 hours in any for any given juxtaposition cross, and directly into the left angle, which will be about those 5th and 6th lines. Looking on the outside, now they're doing interpersonal things. Now they're dealing with karma instead of creating karma. Yeah. And they have again, the same definition, but of course they're moving into the top of the hexagram, the 5th and 6th lines, where people are looking to them for leadership and the ideal qualities of the gates and the crosses. And what Ross says about this is that they are disconnected from their emotional egos. Now, it makes sense because they've got a motor to the throat here. All right, cool. So they're going to be very busy people. But then is there necessarily a connection between on this whole thing here? Not necessarily. So Ross says you have them, their willpower being emotionally activated, but not necessarily activated to what's going on up here. And he uses the example of parties, how they'll say on the outside, no, I'm too busy, I don't want to go to party, I don't want to do all that mess. But as soon as you break them out of it and they get to the party, oh, they have such a great time. And then as soon as they come home, oh, I hate parties, I don't want to go back to parties. So now we're looking into the future as far as the energy of the transit goes. And since I'm already here doing this, let's just talk about these ones going forward, and then I can talk about some of my own personal experiences here. So the right angle is the cross of planning, and we have that same underlying energy of the 40 and 37 on the unconscious side, and then the conscious side will move to having 9 and 16 in the sun and earth positions respectively. So what this gives us is the energy to concentrate and identify with our enthusiasm through the community to have things being worked out for the community, for the tribe. They're looking to give details to every small thing. So it's really very much about that focus on the details, because of now we are looking at the 9th gate, which is right here. So we have 9 here, which is really coming, you have energy coming up from the 52, the mountain stillness, into the 9, which is going to send energy up through the sacral. And then on the other side, we have, the 16. The 16, yeah. And the 16 is up here. So this is logical circuitry again. And we are talking about logic and power to logic and how logic gets expressed. In this case, you're talking about the enthusiasm for identifying with something, identifying with a skill, identifying with a talent, identifying with a project, identifying with a place where money or energy can go in order for the depth or the answers that we have, the logical answers, to be able to reach manifestation by the easiest route possible. But I've got to tell you, when it comes to logic, there's not really a whole lot of easy routes possible for the energy to get from the root up through there, because it's got to be chewed on and mangled here and chewed on and mangled here, and then it comes through the 52 and the 9 that we're talking about, and switches over to fixing a pattern and up to the leadership and alpha gate there to get to the throat. Those are all energy. I mean, the energy is really coming down from the root. So it's just very, very far away. The logical process is starved for energy in general. And that's why whenever a scientist or a researcher is able to quit their day job and focus on the details, really look into their research, that they're so very happy. Oh, let me deep dive and look at this. It says the 9th gate is a fundraiser. It's interesting to me. No matter how many times I read things, every time I read it again, I will get something new out of it. And I had forgotten that one, that the 9th gate could be seen as a fundraiser. Very interesting. And we're really looking at sensibility. It's about saying, according to Ra, okay, we have enough energy now. We can concentrate on the details. So that's really about that community effort of being supported by the community physically, so that you can put all of your energy into finding those logical solutions for the future, and you don't have to actually go out and flog the pavement for groceries. And this is also why a lot of times now we have this instability where there's not actually enough planning or focus and concentration being done at the beginning. He uses the example of programs, a software being released in beta versions. And I thought, yeah, because they haven't actually done all the proper focusing and concentrating on the details in order to be able to have a stable form of the software before they release it. And it's, I think, also part of that energy of this cross of planning in general, just bottoming on out. So the juxtaposition cross for the 9 and the 16 is the cross of focus. And he says this is a very difficult energy, because as soon as you get to the juxtaposition, that underlying energy will shift. So we have the 9 and the 16 over here on the conscious side, and then over here you're going to start getting 64 and 63. Well, 64 is the awareness of confusion out of the crown, and also that skepticism. So then what you've got is this desire to focus and this enthusiasm for identifying where that money should, or energy from for the logical process should go, weighed down by a lot of mental pressure from above. So these people are really tending to be uncomfortable because they have all this mental pressure, but it turns out to be a good thing for other people because they see, oh, they're really examining, figuring things out, they're very inspirational for us. So again, not very many people, but the interesting thing is the ones that have it, Bette Midler, Richard Pryor, Gianni Versace. So obviously they're able to get out of their heads and get things done eventually, at least in some cases. Then we'll move over to the left angle for the cross of identification, and I have some interest in this cross because I made somebody with one of these. I think it's the other one, though not this one. But in this case, instead of identifying with the enthusiasm, these people are going to be identifying on the details. So because of all that mental pressure, they're really wanting to hold back their identification until there is some real strong support for it. So you're not going to see these people taking a whole lot of risks. They're not going to be investing in startups. They want to see their returns right now. They want to see things coming back. They don't want to invest in the details unless there is support for it. So they're really very much focused on security. All right, so that's looking at that. Now, I already said that I have felt like this time for me in experiencing this version of the 3420 has been super powerful, and the people that I've talked to about it have also said, yeah, I just feel like I'm getting reports of extra tiredness, extra sleeping, extra mental processing, extra really trying to figure things out and trying to move up, to accomplish things. It's very interesting, especially because I had fair in Olympia during this time, and I did feel a good amount of power. Not excessive power, not uncontrollable power, but yeah, power. Whenever I have that 20th gate activated for me, you can see this here in my chart because I have 3 of the 4 in the integration circuit. Anytime that fourth gate of the 20 is added onto the stack, then I will tend to have a concentrated time of focusing on myself for the sake of self-empowerment. And I've definitely felt that energy of really focusing on doing my homework, processing, looking at traumas, growing, and trying to become this sort of inwardly focused, selfish, self-empowered kind of thing. It's not bad, but I can't empower others until I myself am empowered. So it's an important step of the progress, even if in the moment the progress feels moderately to fairly painful. So, in the energy ahead, we are really looking at switching from the 3420 in general to the 916, right? And I've said before how for me, that energy, it's very interesting. I start to feel it as I'm studying it and writing it. So I'm kind of like, I feel like a time traveler. Like I'm simultaneously traveling between the past and the future, really living in both at the same time, and having this energy to focus and concentrate on details, which in my case has resulted in a phenomenon that is just blowing my mind. Namely, on Friday, so let's look at what that energy was. We were getting ready we were packing up and heading out to the to Olympia for the fair. So this was the very first day of it. Interesting. So this is when the 9 and the 16 were in the very first line. And of course, in this case, 16 had the exaltation, or the upside, or the light side, depending on how you want to put that, and that is the sensitivity to act responsibly when creating new forms and use a focused approach to problem solving. And Ra took a specific amount of information to explain that problem solving isn't necessarily solving problems. So problem solving is the technique, the approach, how you're going to get it done, but that's no guarantee that it's actually going to get done. So the problem isn't necessarily going to get solved through this, but there really is this focus towards, well, let's solve the problem. And while we were in this energy, for me, of course, golly, what day am I actually on today? I'm on... Oh yeah, that wasn't, no, that's the wrong date. That's the date for it to go ahead. That's next Friday. The date for this to happen was Saturday. Okay, so then I would have been feeling this moon energy on actually... Oh, now you can't tell. I actually have to look up the real transit to find out exactly what I was feeling when I was getting ready. So let me do that while I'm talking and telling this story. So, golly, the energy. Yeah, I was getting ready for the event, and I felt this kind of a whooshing, a kind of a woof, like a rump kind of a thing. If it was making a noise, it would have made like this whoop kind of a noise. And all of a sudden I felt like new thoughts rushing into my head. I was really thinking about things and really focusing on something all of a sudden. And I thought, huh, what's that? That's weird. That felt like weirdness. And I looked it up, and the moon transit had just passed. And that was the first time I had ever actually experienced a transit in my body, recognized it, felt it, and then had the ability to go check the transit right then and see, oh, shit, I felt that happening. I've been telling you guys that I wanted to have this. This was my goal for a long, long time. But in some part of my brain, I thought, yes, it'll be a long, long time before it actually happens. And it turns out that it hasn't been a long, long time. Well, I mean, maybe it's been years and years, but I was thinking I was going to have to be some kind of a super person in order for that to happen. So what I want to see is transits. Here we go. Here we go. So the first one happened at 5:54 in the morning, where I woke up and had an aha moment. And then that moment, and then while I was packing at 1, I had another time where I actually experienced the transit. So let me pull up this. No, actually, I don't want that. I want to do the aha moment of the double yokers, because this is kind of weird, man. So I've got pulled up the transit here, and I guess I can just show it. I recorded the transit as I went and checked it. So that's what it is. So it's cross of uncertainty. It was still in the previous cross of 14.6 and 18.6, both of which in this case were experiencing the exaltation. So remaining humble and grateful in material success and wealth for the 14, and then the 8.6 also exalted the sense of the right timing when to contribute creatively. Very interesting. So at the moment this transit was happening, I was making egg salad for the weekend and breaking eggs into a container to try to make do the eggs a different way. I was cooking the eggs in the oven, trying to streamline the process rather than cooking them in the shells and then having to do the peeling. So I thought I was pretty cool. And I opened up the eggs, and by the time I had broken 5 eggs, 2 of them, not just 1, but 2, had turned out to be double yolkers. And I ask you, if you're buying eggs from the grocery store, these came from Costco. They're the best eggs there that I can tell, but still, they're Costco eggs. There's nothing like super fabulous about them. And I have never, in my memory, gotten a double yolker from a Costco egg. Never. And then all of a sudden I got 2 of them. And while that same thing was happening, the whoosh came again. Now this was the second one. So I'd had the one that had woken me up in the morning, right here as a matter of fact. And then the second one was in the kitchen when I was doing this, and I was like, wait a second, I think I felt that. Is that? No way. And that was when I pulled up the transit and saved it right here. And let's look at that again, because I haven't had the time to go back and look at it since I felt it. I was really, really busy in that moment, and I couldn't spend a lot of time with it. But it turns out the transit that I had just passed was the lunar transit, and it had moved into 26.1. What is 26.1, you ask? Well, it is contentedness, to be content with what has been achieved, moving out of 5.6 to submit to the inevitable. Very interesting. So I was submitting to the inevitable of, now I gotta pack, now I gotta work, now I gotta carry, now I gotta make things happen in order for this fair to come about, into being happy for small or, whatever has been achieved. And in that moment, I broke 2 double yolks. Come on now, you gotta say that's a little bit magical, right? It was pretty cool. And it was an excellent way to start the weekend. At least for me personally. Not everyone around me was having a great time or having a great weekend, but I had a pretty darn good weekend. I had a couple of really good classes, and I hadn't thought of posting both of them, but maybe I will. We recorded both of them. Maybe I will just post both of them, because it's not like I'm ashamed of them or have anything to hide, but we had really only, when we were talking about it, considered posting the second one, because it was another first for me. It was the first time I ever gave a class and received an applause at the end. I was like, cool. Things are starting to come together. And I am actually, in general, starting to feel like things are starting to come together. It's, of course, still a wave function. It's still going up and down. I'm still moving in and out of being able to sustain a powerful kind of energy. But it's one of those things where it starts with a flicker, and then it goes away, then you have a flicker, and it goes away. And in terms of my own personal history, we could call those flickers my power-ups, where I was working through the energy of my machismo, which is, of course, my 34, line 3 here in Neptune, which is supposed to be veiled. Well, nobody told me it was supposed to be veiled. Nobody told me I wasn't supposed to be paying attention to that shit. So whenever I got powered up, I would be like, oh, I have a ton of power. Let me go out and try to change the world right now. That did not end well for me. I just have to say that. And so it got to starting this sort of a trauma cycle of having these really intense experiences when I was flashing into this kind of like almost a super being, which I didn't understand at the time. It was really, really confusing, hard times. Really, really confusing, hard times for me and for the people around me as I was blundering my way into consciousness. Whew, I really grew up pulled by my ass into the future, I gotta say. Man, I did it the hard way, and I would really love to be able to save a bunch of other people all the struggle and suffering that I went through in that process. Not very cool. But, the not very cool is balanced by awesomely great when I felt like, a god. And interestingly enough, my very first power-up was centered around realizing that I was a god. And of course, so is everyone else. So it's not like I thought I was special, but I had always kind of gotten the feeling from my childhood and my background that, sure, you're special like everybody else, but you're not really that special because you're just a girl. And your place is really to follow behind other people, to do work, make babies, take care of them, scrub floors, go to meetings, contribute, and not really ever actually have a voice or any power in the outside world. And so then this feeling of, what is it they say in the movie Aladdin? Phenomenal cosmic power. Itty bitty living space. That was it. It's been a rough ride. That's all I have to say about that. And the fact that my hair is so white at this stage when I'm still relatively young is a testament to how far in the wrong direction I've been, how far I've pushed, how far I've burned myself out, specifically in the cases of trying to fill in this 27th gate, trying to be the ultimate mother, and also for the sake of trying to fill in this 19, really meeting the needs of the community when my needs weren't being met. I was the needs of the community at that time, and there was really very little support I was receiving from anyone, anywhere, to both raise my children and to figure out all this bizarre shit that was happening that kept sending me to hospitals and jails and funny farms and putting me in the extremes of society. Golly, I'm just exhausted even thinking about it. But I was going somewhere, and that is that after those first initial spikes, then I start getting things that last longer and longer and longer, and now I'm having times where I can recognize the feeling of power in my system, but not need to go crazy with it. I can just start to function a little bit more optimally, using it properly. Of course, the people around me are still only ever seeing me as a chaos bunny, it seems like. And so there is, of course, some friction happening with me even saying the words power up, and then the people around me freaking out and going, oh God, you're not going to do anything like powerful, are you? And me thinking, well, ultimately, yeah, that's the point. To actually fix something, to actually change something, to actually make a difference in somebody's lives that's more than just me, more than just a few people who come to me for readings, to really find a way to bring the answers into a place that they can be logical enough that they can provide a pattern for the future, specifically for the future of us moving and transitioning from the global energy of the 4037 into this sleeping phoenix energy here, where we're just really, really, really busy in the now and doing ourselves, being ourselves, concentrating on the abundance and the intimacy that we will be experiencing globally in the new age. In some ways, it seems almost like a utopian kind of energy that we're moving into in the future. But of course, we have to get our homework done. We have to get our personal shit straightened out. And anybody who's, of course, entered on the path of chewing the trauma elephant realizes one step at a time. You can't eat an elephant except for one bite at a time. And it's kind of slow going, hard plowing for all of us to undo the unuseful patterns of behavior and systems of belief, to examine everything that we have been conditioned to be, and to really be able to transfer from focusing in an unbalanced way on the white parts into really sitting in and understanding the energy and the dynamics of the colored parts. And of course, the hope then is that once we start to feel comfortable with the colored bits, that we can then turn around and legitimately own all the rest of it as well, to be a complete human being, ready in the moment to do whatever is required. Now, an interesting thing about that is, I have plenty of time, I think. It's a concept that I was introduced to in one of my power-ups, and it has to do with moving into this new energy of the new age of the 3420. And that is, well, it also has to do with abundance. The idea of when we are in the perfection of our flow, okay? So we have the 9 and the 52 here leading thematically over to the 5 and the 15, which is all about being able to be in the flow of our life, to be exactly doing the right thing in the right place, moving with the flow of life. Or as some people, I think Esther Hicks is the one who has coined the phrase everywhere of going downstream instead of upstream. And that's a good way to think of it, actually. Being this flow kind of person. Because when I first heard about it, I thought, oh, well, cross the planning, that's awesome, because there was a lot of homogenization that was happening when we were all having to submit to the community and to communal forces there, community things. And people who were loners were having a much more difficult time standing out in those times. So I love the idea of moving more towards fostering our individuality, but my first thought when I heard about it was, well, if all these communal systems are dying out, what about the grocery stores? Because I kind of think we still need grocery stores, don't we? And for a while, this led for me into a bit of a fear energy of, I'd like to survive, right? We have this 34 connected directly to the 57. In my case, twice in my chart, both conscious and unconscious. My first thought is going to be survival. Hello, food. I do want to make sure I have dinner. And in my personal life, that really turned into, before I was even aware of human design, a real drive to want to study wild foods, natural things. What can we eat in nature? And being able to start to pull together a salad just from taking a walk, so that I could have the personal assurance. And it does have to do with the transference of my motivation from needs down into fears and food supply, I guess, is where that would have come in for me. And of course, we also have the resonance of coming out of the Mormon religion, where they have a lot of things going on with food security. So it's wrapped up in all that for me, and I felt myself, I don't know everything about wild foods, but I do now feel like I know enough about wild foods that pretty much wherever I am on the planet, I will be able to feed myself if there's no other way for food to come into the system from these communal resources. But just because I have some of that skill doesn't mean that anybody else does. My second thought, well, is how is everybody else going to have a salad? Because I can't pick salads for everybody. But I am on a track here headed towards a specific place, and that place is about something that I learned in a recent power-up about me being in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Of course, in this case, that is abstract energy happening here out of the 46th gate, the love of the body, putting the body in the right place at the right time so as to be able to discover things and to be lucky. So, I have been very lucky, very interesting. And in this one power up that I was in, I was noticing, my body seems to kind of automatically move to a place. And then when I'm in that place, and part of it is because of being a specialist or a manifesting generator, but when I'm in that place, in my super powered state, this is where I'm feeling like, why is everything so perfect? Why is everything happening so awesomely? This is what was going on. And no matter where I was, anything I needed would just happen to be within the reach of my arms. It was freaky, actually. And I found like something, I would all of a sudden go, oh, kind of hungry. There's a snack right there. Oh, I need scissors. Where are scissors? Oh, scissors are right there. Oh, I'm packing. Um, where are the socks? Oh, the socks are right there. And I never had to actually go to a place. So to do packing, of course, when you're doing packing, you're running around and you're collecting things. But I was already collecting things because, as is typical for me, I was co-processing. I was doing a lot of things at the same time. I was packing and cleaning and organizing and, answering texts or all the things that I was doing. And then the activity that was anchoring me was, got to get packed. So I would do that thing that some people call an attention deficit thing, where they're going into the room, they're like, oh, what was I here for, right? And as soon as I grounded myself back in, I'm packing, what was the thing I came for? The thing I came for was in the range of my hand. So it didn't take very long before I started to figure out, okay, something really bizarre is happening here, because that is not usual. That does not happen. That is pretty freaky. And I didn't really know what to make of it in those days. But since then, I've had that phenomenon happen to me over and over again, where I'm thinking, I need a twist tie. I've got to go in the kitchen and get a twist tie. But I just happen to look over on the side. There's a twist tie just sitting there. Now, I have been historically a bit of a messy person. And so sometimes people think that people who are messy or even tending towards what looks like hoarding behavior would not know where all their stuff is. But a lot of times I do know where my stuff is. And it's just in an order in my head that's not necessarily organized for the outside world. Of course, now that is also starting to change, so that my house is slowly gaining a level of orderliness that other people can appreciate as well. And I'm very interested to see how my own internal processes, how my mental processes will be able to upgrade and move even faster when I don't have all this physical clutter dampening my mental skills, and also extra weight on my body dampening my skills. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing the continued progress and to keep recording it, so that not only other people, but that I myself can look back and see, oh, look, there's a progress report on my journey. There's what I looked like when I was still struggling with this and that, and these were the energies that were coming together for me. And I have to say, by the way, this transit has been a bitch to put together for me, because it's like I'm living with the transits. They're on my mind all the time now. And especially since I was made aware over the weekend of needing to concentrate and focus even more on the moon. And this was from somebody who I had not told that I was having these moon transit feeling experiences in myself. And also, I have in my journal, which I did not bring for proof, but I promise you it's there. I wrote in my journal, I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday before going to the event. I really want to start. It was the day that we had was it the full moon, new moon? Oh, I can't fucking remember. It was last week. It was one of those ends of the moon. I think it was a full moon. Yeah, I think it was a full moon. That day of the full moon, I felt like I need to start tracking the moon, uh, the moon cycles. And when I went and looked, I was like, oh shit, this idea came to me right at the time of the full moon. So I noted it in my journal, and I also noted looking ahead that the next end of the cycle would be the 4th of December. And I believe that's when the new moon will be happening. And then I start feeling the lunar transits, and then I go to the event where somebody says to me, yeah, actually, there's a lot happening for you in the moon. You're really needing to start looking at the moon and getting a lot more of inspiration from what's happening in the moon. And so that's coming together in a sort of groovy, magical way. That's kind of cool. And I've been very much checking the transits. There were, I think, at least 2 more times where I did feel that shift in the lunar transit and saved the transit so that I could study and have records of these things for the future. It's fascinating. Things are feeling definitely like they're speeding up, moving more quickly. And as we're beginning to move from the energy of the 3420 into the 916, it's going to be very interesting to me, and because what I'm going to be seeing, being experienced, is an energy that is very interesting for all people who have 48th gate activations. And we're, of course, not backed up against my usual wall where I could show my partner over here and we could see that he has a 48th gate activation. And also, one of my very dearest friends and her husband also have 48 gate activations. So this message is for all 3 of these people and everyone else who is carrying depth, that we are about to enter what could be a very important phase of people with 48s getting that energy up to the throat through the 16, and 16s being able to connect to the energy of the 48. Of course, one of the things that I just picked up this time that I've read before is that the 16s don't really seem to like the 48s. They work well together, but they have some kind of problem thing, which is kind of funny because it goes right back to the example that I always use of the 16 and the 48 energy coming together, and that is, of course, Paul Simon with his 48th gate activation and Art Garfunkel with his 16. They came together, they made beautiful music, but ultimately that turned out to be too much friction in a relationship and they broke. But wow, did they manage to meet up the skills and the depth in an awesome way there for a while. And in my life personally, I'm being conditioned by that 48 all the time. And since this is open for me for the last 12 years, I've been really being conditioned to go deep, to find the depth. And then whenever my daughter, who carries the 16, comes around, then we see kind of how that energy flows. But because I haven't been consciously aware of it, I haven't been able to notice exactly the phenomenon of what was happening there. Now I'm conscious. Now, at least of this aspect, right? Now I'm able to see, okay, we're getting ready to have a transit that is bringing us almost 6 days of focused 16 gate energy for the whole entire world. So all the 48s across the whole planet are all of a sudden going to find, whoop, those answers can get to the throat. I can talk about the things. I can talk about my depth. My depth can come out. I can speak these things. I can get energy support for what it is that I'm doing. So this 48 energy that tends to be in a lot of people kind of stuck or holding the answer, and it's really like bottling up and wanting to get out. Whoosh. we're going to be able to see those things being able to come out, as well as the whole world being able to carry this energy of, okay, let's focus, let's sit down, let's look at the details, let's find out the way through this by figuring out some kind of pattern that is going to be able to maintain a flow for us to get to something that is going to be sustainable. So I'm very interested to see what's coming ahead in this 9/16 time. Of course, we're also heading into holiday times, which means people are getting more and more busy, and consequently less feeling less able to sit around and waste time with my ass, and that's fine. You don't have to. The transit will be sitting here anytime, and anytime you want to know a little bit more about what's going on with the 9th and the 16th gates, here it is. You can come check it out and see, that's what was going on at that time. That was what was globally happening, and the energy and figuring it out. So that's there. I'm just really, really feeling a lot of tiredness in my body. A lot of need for, I'm not doing a lot of physical things, but I'm expending so much mental energy that I'm just burning through a lot, and I'm finding that my brain is getting tired. And when my brain gets tired, my body is shutting down for the sake of my brain. Very interesting. And I'm also noticing, I just now realized this, that my body is, oh, okay. Wow. All right. Whew. Oh, something is definitely happening. I need to know what the transit is right now. Oh. Okay, let me find this out while I'm talking. I'm realizing that there is some kind of thing going on with my body and the sensitivity of my body. I've been noticing this weekend that my body is very sensitive. I'm used to this happening when I'm in a power-up, but not so much during regular times. There's not a transit happening here, so this is just an insight experience that I'm having. I'm in the middle of the 49.5 right now, which is okay. The organization of necessary reforms. And it has an exaltation. The ability to accompany reform. Oh, wow. A lot of energy here. Oh. To accompany reform through practical provisions and an adequate organization so as to ensure the long-term support of the community. Right. So, okay, let me see if I can explain what's flooding me so emotionally right now. One of the things that's very specific to me is that I have been, over the course of my life, massively physically suppressed. So, I was told from a very young age and taught that I was not to have control over my own body. And I got two stories about this. The first one was when I was about, I would say, maybe 5 or 6, very young. And I was a tomboy. I was kind of a wild kid. My hair was kind of everywhere, and it was one length, and it would just kind of get pulled back sometimes. And I remember looking in my mother's armoire mirror and seeing my hair and thinking, you know what? I'd kind of like to have bangs. And my mother said, no, you're not allowed to have bangs. That's not for you. You don't get that. And being me, feisty little spicy little me, little manifesting generator, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And I had this look in my eye, and my mom knew that. She, I believe, is a projector, so she definitely knew that. And she said, no, definitely no, you will not have that. And if you cut them yourself, I will cut the rest of your hair. Very, like, spicy on that one. But I was willing to put it to the test. And I remember my mother had a party. She was busy. She was distracted. And I went and cut myself some bangs. And when the thing was over, she was like, oh, that's where we're going with that. Okay. And she ruthlessly chopped the rest of my hair. It was brutal. And so that was a very sharp lesson to me from a very early age. There may have been others before, but this one really sticks in my memory of not having control of my body. And then the next one was I was probably older than 8. So I feel like it was shortly after we moved to Mannheim. So we're looking at maybe around 10-ish. I don't feel like I was too old, but I could have been 11, somewhere in there. And I started to discover my own body, my genitals, and I started to touch myself in the nights as I was falling asleep. Very comforting, very innocent. Looking back on it, I really have a lot of empathy for that self of mine that was trying to develop a love of my body. I noticed that it felt good when I touched down there, and that was lovely. My life at that time was very difficult, very constrained. At the same time, I was being told constantly and shown constantly that I did not have control of my surroundings either. My room was not mine. We had these pretty brutal room inspections every Saturday at those times, and so I was feeling like I had to take whatever would be mine and it needed to be hidden. So as soon as I discovered this, I tried to hide it, but my parents, of course, they saw or they noticed I wasn't wearing my underwear in the bed or something like that, and they immediately clamped down on that. No, that is not for you. You're not allowed to touch that. You're not allowed to know that. That's not yours. You do not get to own your own body in this time. And of course, being me, I was like, you'll see about that. I'll wait till you guys are asleep. And I tried. They would come check on me all the time. And they were older, they were smarter, they were more strategic, and of course they did. They didn't beat me, but they kept on that very, very firmly until finally I just was forced to submit. And I separated myself from my body at that time, which was rather unfortunate because my body was just getting ready to start all these changes, these weird lumps on my chest that were horrible and sensitive, and I didn't want it. And at that time, I remember doing this. I remember where I was standing when I did this. It's like I formed this barrier right here, and I was just like, all that, whatever all that is, just, I can't. I can't be connected to all that. So just no. I'll just do this up here. and that just won't be mine. And it started a process for me of just not connecting with the changes in my body, not understanding it, not wanting to understand it. Just trying to be mental. And for me, that was really, really a bad thing to do. Not that I did a bad thing, and not that my parents really did a bad thing either, because they were trying their best to do what they thought was right for me, but they themselves had their heads in their asses because they were so uh, seduced by this religion and by the ideals of, you know, being dedicated to this cult and the resulting cult-like behavior. That the result for me was feeling like I was being dragged along in my life. I had this sort of moment of rebellion when I chose my own husband for myself. That was very what the word is only in German here. Oh, I must be actually getting some German. Ärgerlich. It was very annoying, frustrating. Um, uh, I've lost my train there from something. But anyway, the bigger place that I'm going is that yes, to my parents it was frustrating and annoying that I would somehow get the feeling or make the assumption that I would be able to actually choose my own life partner. How dare she? And but in some ways, it feels like that was kind of the last decision that I made. Yeah. And it was made on so much incorrect information as a result of me assuming that my parents were to be trusted, unfortunately. That I went down this whole path of things that were obviously meant for me, but were not going to be easy learning experiences for me. And definitely centered around my body needing to be used to create babies, to grow babies, to make babies, to nurture babies, to support and do all the things that have to do with mothering, while not actually being connected to my body. It was not cool. It was not easy. It was not fun. And that's why we end up with the body that you see now here before. It's before you. It's a body that's been through a lot of trauma and put on the weight as a protective mechanism. And so now I'm having to really go through and rigorously examine every step of that trauma and make myself whole again. And in that process, I am slowly starting to claim the parts of my body and love the parts of my body. You folks have seen me playing with my hair sometimes. My hair was one of the first places where I decided, okay, this is something that I can love. And the people who are closest to me and from whom I am not necessarily feeling the most support all the time in my transition looked at me and said, why are you spending so much time in your hair? You know, because basically what I was doing was saying, I want to claim every single one of my hairs. I want to own every single one of my hairs. I've had problems with my hair for a long time because I don't actually want to take my hair to a salon. For a while it was because I didn't feel like it was a justifiable expense to go to a salon. Uh, if it was a choice between going to get my hair cut and being able to buy something for my children, then my children, in every instance, won that little tussle. And so I didn't want to spend the money to get haircuts, but I didn't want to not get haircuts. If you don't get haircuts, then your hair gets all uh, split and nasty and gross. And of course, I had already decided as a young mother that my hair, which was not quite as long as this, but quite long, the longest I'd ever had it up to that point, um, it was not serving me. I couldn't give it that much attention. And so I cut it off and on purpose had short hair all the time that I was raising my children. But I had promised myself that I would um, have long hair when I was 50. I was like, yeah, when I'm 50, then my kids are going to be pretty much grown up and I'll have my own life. I'll be a powerful woman and I want long, long hair that I can play with and focus on and put pin curls in and do whatever things with. So I was thinking of that myself. And then when the time came and I was 50, I did not have long hair. But I was thinking about growing it out for a while. I wanted to have dreads, but dreads didn't happen easily. It didn't come in the flow. And in the end, I decided not to force it, especially since I knew my partner hates dreads. He thinks that's really gross, especially when white people have the audacity to think that they can do something to their hair that's really only meant for black people. I don't know. I thought it would have been kind of cool to have some dreads, but I wanted a very specific kind of dreads out of all the most beautiful things that I had seen before, and I did not find anyone in the time when my hair was short to help my hair go in that direction. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll just let it grow out straight and plain. And of course, I'm a water being in the 9-key system of Chinese astrology, and water beings easily grow hair. So anyway, I decided that my hair would be the first place that I focused on myself, and I knew that if I wanted to grow my hair out, I would have to have regular haircuts. And I didn't really want to do it. I've still never wanted, and of course now, shit, now you want to go to the salon. You're looking at $50 just to get a regular haircut. Back in the day when I was first starting to wrangle this, a haircut would be, like $20, and I thought that was a lot. And so I'm looking at this now. Definitely no. In fact, I had my hair very closely shaved for a long time with just a little puff in the front as sort of a fuck you to going to salons. My partner did it, just buzz the whole thing around. So when I'd made this decision, I started to cut the damage out of the ends of my hair one by one, piece by piece, until it took months and months. I thought for a while that it wouldn't end, that I would just be generating damage at the same speed that I was removing it. But no, I did get there, and now I, of course, am giving myself haircuts all the time. Pretty much any time my hair is out like this, I'm holding it up and examining it and using a little of my 60-second gait to pay attention to detail to find these hairs that have new damage one by one and cut them, so that what has been happening is that my hair has been able to start growing, I've noticed, much faster, because I am on purpose keeping it in a state of health that means that it can not be obstructed by damage, which slows down the growth of the hairs. And so my hair is not normal. That's nice. It's individual. It doesn't, it doesn't have any kind of a straight line that can go across. In fact, I probably always have like one hair is the longest of them all. It leads off into a point, but every hair along the whole way is healthy hair as much as I can manage it. And so I don't need to have a straight line across my hair. It's the beginning of truly claiming the love of my body. And I had a real nice experience just the other day, sitting in the bathtub with a friend, and she said, "Tell me about your teachers, favorite teachers." And the first teacher that came to mind was my high school English teacher, Speck was her name. And I remembered noticing her body, noticing that her body, while it seemed to most people that her body was fat, I noticed this really lovely delicacy about her. All of her parts tapered down into these beautiful little ends. She had these delicate little ankles and delicate wrists, and then she just kind of flowed into curvy beautifulness from there. And I really loved her body. And my friend pointed it out, and I realized in the moment that she was right. That's because that's how my body is supposed to look. And when she said that, I was really, really struck, and I thought, I would love my body if it looked like that, if there wasn't in what I saw in the mirror some aspect of shame for what I carry. And of course, I've been trying very hard to release any kinds of shame that I feel in myself. But, I'm reading all the time, studying all the time, human design, and it's just a part of the thing that shame is one of the themes that a third line being will face and have to deal with as beings that make a lot of mistakes. We are made in our lives to feel shameful for our mistakes, to feel that our mistakes make us less as people, and not to be honored for what we are, which is people willing to make mistakes in order to learn things the hard way so that nobody else has to. And I've absolutely learned a lot of things the hard way. And had to face, and of course starting to overcome. You can tell by the depth of my emotion that I have not overcome yet all shame. I've seen in my life a lot of fat women. Mormonism has a lot of them. South America has a lot of them. America has a lot of them. And of course, we're looking at societal issues around fat and body size and shame and shaming. And I see a lot of women in a process of self-empowerment and growth, trying to rise above, trying to master their environments and their lives, their worlds, their realities inside and out. With the result that some women are concentrating much more than others on maintaining bodies that look beautiful to other people. Everybody has their weaks and strengths, is what I've noticed. Weaknesses and strengths. And for sure, if a person has a beautiful body, they have problems somewhere else. Yeah. And if a person has what society considers to be a fat body, then it's like the problems of that person are externalized to a degree that is not necessarily the case for other people. Now, I'm not trying to say that fit people are fucked up in their heads and that fat people have got it all figured out except for their bodies. But I do kind of get the sense that in my case, figuring things out internally through intuition, of course, we're looking at my triple activation of intuition, and through the wisdom of the body, um, while at the same time feeling like the issues of my body and, of course, the mirror of my possessions around my body have been getting more and more out of control, more and more in a direction that is not comfortable to me, feeling like my body is in some ways trapping me and my possessions are trapping me. And so then I have this weight of the outside pressing in on my brain and also decreasing the capacity of my brain to make progress forward. But I also am feeling that as my house slowly gets focused on and clean, that it is shifting the brain spaces so that I will have at some point an awful lot of power to decide what to do with. But fortunately for me and the rest of the world, I will not be having both the physical and physical in terms of my body and physical in terms of my possessions release before my brain is able to handle the power that will be resulting therefrom. So it's like I had a friend that said to me the other day, she said, yeah, I can tell that I'm not meant to make that much money yet because that would skew the system. That would make things, that would make challenges in other places that I'm not yet ready to face. And that is kind of how I feel about my body. I see these other women doing these things and rising up inside of themselves, becoming self-empowered. But I also see that the step from becoming self-empowered and being able to release the weight of the body, that seems to be one of the most difficult and challenging things that there is. So I don't know how it's going to happen for me, but I can tell you that I'm not going to diet. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to suffer. Fuck that. I'm going to eat the things that I need to eat at the times that I need to eat them, and I'm going to trust the universe to make sure that the shape of the body fits the right thing when the right time comes. And until then, I'm just going to be fat. Because, I've talked with my partner about this for a decade. And he has a lovely relationship with his body, and he does sport to maintain it, and happy for him. When we were a new couple, I tried to follow and submit to that, but it did not work for me. I am not sport. I long had said to my children, really the only physical activities that appealed to me were dancing, swimming, sex, and since then I have added to the list hiking to hot water and bicycling. So I got 5 now. Potential activities in which I will engage, and maybe yoga. I could see like yoga if I found the right condition, the right teacher, the right place, the right time, that sort of thing. But I haven't yet, so not yoga yet. But I feel like I could fall in love with yoga under the right circumstances. And my partner really wants to do Pilates, and I have experimented with Pilates. And while I did not love the action of Pilates in the moment, I do feel like that's an excellent tool for helping to strengthen and sculpt the body as well. So I could see myself submitting to that. But as far as is anybody going to see me jogging? I don't think so. Oh, another thing I could do is jump on a trampoline. I actually do kind of find that to be fun, except that I have all these huge boobs on me now, so I would have to really either bind my boobs, or what I end up doing is just bouncing and then I'm just holding them while I'm bouncing. I'm like, that's gotta fix it right there. But as long as y'all don't mind the picture of me bouncing while I'm holding my own boobs, that's probably gonna be fine for me as well. Ay, ay, ay. But it's going to be very interesting for me to see, because I feel like this struggle with owning my body, loving my body, really, really coming into my double activation of the 46th gate, the love of the body, and the ability to have my body be in exactly the right time and place, will be developing into some kind of superpower that will both put me into the right time and the right place, exactly where I need to be, and also fully reconnect me with the love of my body, which should naturally make my body take the form that it is meant to have, and not have to have these protective layers of fat on me, which also, it creates problems in all kinds of ways. Everybody knows about the problems that excess weight causes. And um, and of course, we have weight problems working together with a problem historically of not speaking my truth. And not speaking my truth, of course, in the not too distant past, caused a hiatal hernia. So then I've been physically forced to both address my eating, my digestion, and how I am saying things that are uncomfortable for the people around me as I claim myself and rise up. Speaking of which, I got myself into a real jam this weekend by speaking my truth and not understanding who I was speaking to. But that actually turned into a really lovely experience, and I have to express love and admiration for the woman that was in the other part of uh, that interchange that could have been very frictional, with me just speaking my truth because it was easy, and then having to go back and examine myself and back it up and see what was behind it and dig into the layers, which somehow I was able to do without pissing her off too bad, so that she could come um, and not hate me afterwards. So that was a really lovely experience for me. A mistake turned into a growth opportunity is kind of how I'm thinking of it. So, all that is to explain that the realization that I had just now on camera was that this uh, closeness and sensitivity to my body is connected to how I'm starting to feel the transit shifts. And uh, it's part of a process of, oh yeah, the other piece was, I definitely started noticing this weekend that my body has started to do another thing that it began to do first in a power up, which was to become extremely sensitive to the energies around me, so that if I am surrounded physically in my aura by people who are not well meaning, I am instantly weaker, disempowered. I start to feel pain. I start not to be able to stand, to walk, to work, to carry things. Um, I was, like I said, hanging out in the bathtub as sort of like a hot tub replacement with a friend of mine. And luckily, I have a lovely, great big tub in which to do that. And I was feeling good. I was feeling lovely. We came downstairs and we were getting ready to say goodbye to each other. And someone came into the room who was carrying a lot of resentment towards me. And immediately I was just like, woof. my body just fell down through several energetic layers, and I was all of a sudden like I was 90. So much pain, so much weight on myself all of a sudden. And he said, yeah, oh, could you fetch this from the car for me if you're going out there, by the way? And all of a sudden I was just like, I don't think I can. I think it's pushing the limits of what I can do to get my body to the car, much less fetch back the things that I wanted to fetch. And then to add your suitcase on top of it, I don't know, I'm physically capable of that. Whereas just before, yeah, I'd been able to do it. I'd have been fine to do it. I definitely had this happen to me in one of my power-ups, where the energy of the people around me massively affected how my body functioned, and I'm noticing more and more that that is happening to me. So when I'm around certain people, I will have certain physical ailments or considerations that other people think, oh, are you sick? Are you having a problem? And I can't really explain, yeah, it's in my head. It's a psychological problem because I'm really messed up over, this certain process of loss, grieving, betrayal, things ending, not knowing, not having security, not feeling like I'm okay. It's been very interesting, but it's okay because what I'm doing is developing a language with my body. Yeah. If I'm coughing and having these sort of asthma related issues, then that's a specific message from my body to me. And now that I'm kind of starting to understand slowly what that means, I'm like, oh, okay. As soon as I start coughing, I'm like, okay, that's the issue that I'm needing to face right now. Or if my back hurts, that's a sign of something. Or if I'm all of a sudden really, really sleepy, that's a sign of something. Or if I have itches in certain places, that's a sign of something. I've just recently started these exercises to move lymph and toxins through and out of my body, and I'm learning about my lymph nodes and in all kinds of ways becoming more aware of my body and how it has all along been wanting to engage with me in this process of very sensitive and delicate communication. But because I've been so just cut off from all of that, it stopped a whole lot. And so now I have to go back and break that open bit by bit and own every tiny piece of my body bit by bit. And it's a long, painful process, but I do see little sparkles of hope that my insides will at some time in the not too distant future start to match my outsides. My outsides will match my insides. And then some really magical and maybe even scary things will start to happen. And I'm really, really glad to be forming the record of it now. So, here we are. It's been a long ramble on this subject, and if it wasn't for you, that's fine. Pass it by. Use the AI to do a summarization of the topics and get what you need out of it and let the rest be. It's all right. And if you're finding something that's interesting and helpful to you here and you're studying human design, by all means, tell somebody about it. And if you want to know more about the things that I'm going through and how what I'm going through can translate into wisdom for you in your life, you go on. Come on and see me at jollyalchemy.com. We'll look at some things. I'm going to try to put together another transit report for the next grouping, which is, of course, moving into... Oh, I had it just a minute ago, but all this talking has moved me into a different place so that I'm not actually remembering what the next one is. Yes. The Gate of Waiting. My fifth gate. This should be a good one. The right angle cross of consciousness, then habits, and separation. So, new things to do. For now, I'm going to end this and start to focus on my own Festivaltag separation activities. And so take care of yourselves. Try to be nice to yourselves. Try to find a place to be okay sometime this weekend. And for those of you who truly care about giving thanks, I would urge you to set an extra place at your table and find someone who has less and share with them. Invite in somebody who you wouldn't normally. I've had a lot of resistance to the idea of bringing a homeless person into my table, but I have made a place. And if a hungry person comes by, I will absolutely be there to champion the needs of the community at this time. It's not really fair for us to have this attitude of so grateful for all I have, but not grateful enough to share it with somebody who doesn't have anything at all. That's, I think, needing practical revolution. So go on. Homeless people aren't going to bite you. Invite somebody in, show a little love, give them some food one day this year, will ya? Until next time, take care, y'all.